You know that one game you've heard about, maybe even purchased, but never got around to actually playing? Well, for me, Chained Echoes checked all the above until now. Released on December 8th, 2022, comes Chained Echoes, a 16-bit style RPG from a solo developer by the name of Matthias Linda, with music assistance by Eddie Maria Nucro. Today, I invite you to join me as I share my thoughts on this game and discuss the infamous comparison between it and Sea of Stars. With all of that being said, I will assess the gameplay, story, replayability, and my take on the indie versus indie throwdown. So, let's begin. Starting with the gameplay, we can see a throwback to the old way of RPGs, where turn-based was king and battles took place on a separate screen. One notable difference between the old and the new, however, is that there are no random encounters in this game, meaning you can control, to some degree, how many fights you get into, and there are no penalties when you decide to run away. Diving into the combat side of things a bit more is where that separation becomes more apparent. First, there's a lack of levels in this game, and secondly, there is the overdrive meter on the top left of the screen during battle. No traditional levels usually means that combat is geared towards a certain pattern of skills versus bulldozing the enemies due to overwhelming stats, and that is the case here. But surely that would be too easy if it could all be done without penalty. So, the overdrive meter is introduced in hopes of balancing out the battles between both sides. Ideally, the player wants to stay in the green, where not only does their damage increase, but the technical points or TP cost is halved. This means that more skills can be used during the duration of the battle. Going outside of the green zone is not terrible on the yellow end, but on the red end, which is called overheat, is the congratulations you have played yourself zone, as TP cost gets nasty and so does the damage your party will sustain. Overall, the overdrive mechanic is not a bad one once you get used to it, as it does force you to use all of your party members for peak performance. But with that out of the way, let's also talk about the skills in general. As you recall, I mentioned that there are no traditional levels for your characters, which is indeed true. What I didn't mention though is that your skills, whether they are active or passive, do have levels instead. You can equip 5 total passives, by the way. Skill points are acquired through combat and are naturally fed into skills that are currently equipped, but you are also given an SP pool to help level up one of your choices a bit faster. While it is not perfect, I thoroughly enjoyed this method of leveling up versus the standard, where you get X stat increase as you can tailor your squad to your preferences. Additionally, every boss you beat gives you a skill point that you can use to unlock even more, so that feeling of progression is still there. If that is not enough, there is also equipment that can be upgraded and slotted with crystals, and even the sky armor, which has its own upgrade tree. So there's a lot under the surface that you won't find out until you get deeper into the game. But that's the gist of the combat, so let's move on to the story. The story consists of 5 sections total, with the first being the prologue and the other 4 being divided into acts 1 through 4. I will briefly touch on all of them while also leaving out the spoilers. The prologue was the worst part of it for me. While it was somewhat interesting, it was the fragmented way that the story is being told that felt jarring. There's a huge disconnect between the player and the multiple characters they have to juggle at first, which can be off-putting. So if you have tried this title in the past and dropped it because of the prologue, then give it another shot because it does get better. Act 1 is where it all begins to pick up. You get some world building, character introductions, and a few plot twists to get that engine of curiosity roaring. Act 2 continues to lock in with the twists, but with the introduction of another battle system, which you will either love or hate. Either way, it does a great job of breaking up the now standard monotony of the overdrive system. This is also where exploration, which was once very rigid, actually becomes fun and interesting. Act 3 builds off of Act 2, but in a way you probably won't see coming. It is here where the real meat and potatoes of the meal start to hit the table. It is satisfying to see how everything begins to tie together after being on different train tracks, so to speak, for so long. Additionally, you are provided with some much needed background on some of the main cast, which couldn't come soon enough. Act 4 is naturally the peak of the story, where all the pieces from the beginning fall into place. I will say that Act 3 was my favorite out of the bunch, as the twists were just enough to keep me going. Act 4 is still good, but the novelty of it does begin to wear off. But for a story written by one person who also had to tackle developing the game, well, it's pretty good. Regarding its overall replayability, there's a lot to do by the end game, or if you're feeling froggy, there is also a new game plus. By the end game, all optional content should be unlocked so you can complete it before facing the final boss. We are talking side quests, the reward board, and optional bosses. Just in case you were curious, it took me 28 hours and 36 minutes to complete it on my first playthrough, according to my in-game time. This was with some side quests and exploration included. When it comes to New Game Plus, well, it does exist and is there to provide an even greater challenge if the first run wasn't enough for you masochists. For $25 USD, you get a lot packed into this title, just saying. This is a title I can see myself coming back to in a few years for another playthrough, as it does offer a unique experience with its battle system and quality of life improvements as you dive further into it. So that speaks a lot for it to just be an indie game. Last but not least, let me also discuss the Chained Echoes versus Sea of Stars topic for a quick second. For whatever reason, the internet loves to compare these titles to each other since they are both turn-based and come from indie developers. But outside of that, I do not see where they line up. Sea of Stars is akin to Super Mario RPG, which is like a baby's first JRPG, as it is short, shallow, and sweet. Chained Echoes is geared more towards the fans of the genre looking for something with a bit more bite. If you are just getting into JRPGs, then Sea of Stars is a viable choice since its story and battle mechanics stay simple. But if you have played more than 4 RPGs in your entire life, then Chained Echoes may be up your alley instead. It requires a lot more brainpower to get through. I tell you that as a person who has played and beaten both titles. Anyways, let's go ahead and wrap this up. In my opinion, Chained Echoes is a challenging, plot-twisting marvel where the soul of its creator shines through with ease once the story takes off. Combat is clunky at the beginning, but once you get enough party members, you can see its intended direction. While not mind-blowing, it is satisfying to deal with when it works, especially compared to just pressing O or A to attack. Some may love it, and some may hate it, but at least you tried something different. Story-wise, it can be difficult to get adjusted to the party, as not only their development, but the exploration feels like it's on rails until Act 2. But the build-up between Act 3 and the resolution at Act 4 is exciting and invigorating. The music is also on point throughout most of the game. Finally, for the price point for this title, it offers a slew of extra content which could easily net you an additional 10 to 15 hours on top of the base game. So it does a great job of making sure every dollar counts. And with the brand new Ashes of Elrant DLC, what better time is there than now to give this game a shot?